Okay, I'm back for another half hour of doing stuff and talking about it while I'm doing it. Hopefully the stuff in this case will get around to the WebAssembly, but if it doesn't, it doesn't. I've got to deal with all of these horrible red lines, so the horrible red lines will go. Okay, so for this line, I'm certain that it will be there. And I can't really express that otherwise, so I am going to just say test results element is this. In principle, if I were being a little bit more fancy about this, I would use a templating system or something. But for now, I don't really have a particular need for that because I'm actually operating on the canvas element and not really on very much else. So, in fact, yeah, I'm fine with just testing if it is true and just letting it silently not do anything if it's not. I think that is a reasonable thing to do. So inside here, inside the if statement, oh good grief, I just copied. Copy here, paste here. Why is Control C next to Control V? That's a question for the ages. So inside here, it knows that test result element is not null because it wouldn't have got into this branch if it had been. So here, it could be null. Here, it cannot be null. So essentially what happens is it understands that there is another value for the variable at this point, another type rather, which is different from what it is originally, but it still has the same name. So if I did have code further below that used test results element, it would still have the same problem with being null. It would still have that situation going on. Okay, so yes, I don't want that to be undefined. Honestly, yeah, so CTX shouldn't actually be undefined at this point, but I'm not going to complain too much. I'm just going to find this nice line here. Thank you very much. And I am going to paste it in here, but just very slightly different. Okay, and then we got the same down here. So I can't say I know off the top of my head what init for null meant. This is where I should have documented something. I do know what init for random means. So that's preparing the test for running a random map and just seeing what the outcome is. Right, so we've got red. Oh yes, here's another red. And this is indeed nullable. Right. Okay. So this is a somewhat interesting case because this is exactly a case where I know that if everything is working correctly, the second line will not be null because this top line here creates the situation in which the bottom line will not be null. So it's a little bit frustrating. And I'm going to have to say const node is this thing. Change this one to say node. And then I can say if not node, throw new error. Node is null. Question mark, question mark. It's good enough. There might actually be some guard directives that I can explicitly use, but I don't really know. I don't really know what they are, if they are such things. Right, so this again is, yeah, this is null. So the test that it can receive, the test signature structure, okay, so nominally it can have no start and finish. I think that's a mistake, but for now, I'm just fixing the red. I'm just getting rid of it so that I can actually see what the real problems are. I am just going to pretend it's a perfectly sensible thing to do. So start question mark. And the same for finish. This is one of the few cases where I would actually definitely not worry about alphabetical order, because start and finish, if those are the only two things, start is the one that comes first because the start comes first. All right, so we also want the context, which I'm just going to steal the line from further up. Thank you for that. And this node app business again. Okay, so that's the line that I want. Okay, so this one I'm actually going to review because it's possible that this may have been incorrect. So I'm going through the obstructions and I'm trying to find the node which corresponds to them. Oh no, oh, here it is. Here it is up here. So yes, those will always return a node. It's possible that some of them won't return an obstruction node, in fact. But if that happens, I will have to deal with that as a bug at the time. So I'm going to add this again. Oh, in fact, I can see this one here. This one here is telling me I haven't saved it. So I can do Command S to save, but also if I mouse over this, I've got like a multi-save button. So I'm just going to hit that multi-save button and then plus. Okay, so we're now down to 24 problems, which all things considered is not that many problems. We need to have some more if statements here. So if not this dot root start, row new error, row root start. So in some cases with these things, rather than writing a throw, I might write a test, or one that will not throw and it will instead only run the affected code if the value is not null. In other words, I would write put an if block around it. So here, there's not really a reason to do that specifically, and I can absolutely assert that all of these things should be set. So I need to do that. So root start position. And I'm going to do the same for the finish position, which is very, very easy in terms of the message. I just change start to finish. And how on earth could grid map not be sad? That's astonishing. Throw new error. No grid map. Question mark, question mark. Wow, okay. And right, so here's an example of where I'm going into a function and then it's losing the fact that that the grid map is known to not be null. So that is a thing that I will have to fix. Okay, and root, obviously it's not going to be a null root. I'm not even prepared for that. So I'm going to filter that. So R, just filter it to itself. That's a perfectly valid way of getting it. Why are you complaining now? Why are you complaining? You should now know that none of these are null. That's so annoying. All right, I'm going to find out where possible roots was defined. Oh, it's here. Right. Okay. Yes. Okay. And this is doing exactly the test that I thought it was doing. That's very frustrating. I guess let's try just declaring it. So at type it's a root array. That's all it is. I hate you so much. Okay. Okay. Yeah. This is the most annoying thing. I think we're actually going to have to, in this case, put a bunch of if statements in here. Oh, actually, well, can I do it? Can I do it in a more simple way? Maybe with that, actually with a for loop, I can do it. Which will be a little bit silly, but you know what? What I'm going to do here, because I know that this will work, is I'm going to set the ignore directive. So that what this says is that although the next line might not make any sense to the compiler, it makes sense to me, and just assume that I'm right. So that will that gets rid of one of my red things. I would like to not have to deal with that. I think technically what would have happened here is so this considers that the filter can still return values which are null because it doesn't recognize so it doesn't recognize the return type of the filter as being modified by this, which is a little bit of a mouthful. Right, so this sort I'm going to need to get a little bit fancy with. So while it doesn't know what the value of this is anymore, it will know what the value of any local variables is. So I can say const grid map equals this.grid map. So this value now is not null, and the one on the right is not null as well, but it will lose that property as soon as it gets into the inner part. So there we go. So replacing these, and suddenly we don't have those horrible wiggly lines anymore. Right, context. So that's the same thing here. Oh, actually, let me copy it from another function. Where are you, context test? There you are. Okay, and that has got rid of some more red. Right, so I'm going to add that. And let's see what else is going on. Right, okay, so here I am. Here I'm actually into the WebAssembly bridge code. So this is doing, it's not magical stuff. It's actually fairly straightforward stuff, but it's stuff that has a lot of explaining to do. So it's not something that you want to get into. So I'm going to look at these. Okay, so I don't think these are actually null problems. So when there is a value that's unexpectedly null, it'll do the red wiggly lines on the left. So this one might be nullable, possibly. So string array buffer or null is not assignable to buffer source. Null is not assignable to buffer source. Right, okay, so fr.result does not work. So that's fine. I can just add an assertion for that. Throw new error, no result. Oh, string is not assignable to. You are just annoying me here. So this is another case of typing problems. So I mean, maybe this result thing can be null. Maybe that is a situation, but going all the way down here, the fact that I've called reads array buffer means that the value of result will be an array buffer. That's its purpose. But I can't tell that. Not for the onload. I can only tell that the result is present. I suppose I can actually, you know what, I'm going to do this. I'm going to use an instance of test. So this is something that I can do, and this will work if it's null anyway. So I'm actually going to do a negative test, which will require an extra bracket. This thing, instance of array buffer, throw new error, result type. Right, there we go. So we've got rid of another line of red there. So why is this complaining? This is complaining that buffer does not exist on, what? Buffer does not exist on type export value. Buffer does not exist on type function. So what do you think that WebAssembly.export value is? This is a real question. This is an interesting question. All right, so WebAssembly export value. Don't complain at me. I want to know what it actually is. This is a big lot of unhelpful. Not something I want to see. You know what? Fine. Let's see what TypeScript reckons it is. So type alias is export value, functional, global, or memory or table, and yeah, so memory has a property called buffer. And yet you are complaining that it's not. I'm not going to fix that, not right now. That will probably require another test. I'll probably need to check that it's a WebAssembly.memory value. But I'm not inclined to do that right this second. Maybe I'll change my mind in a minute, who knows? But not right now. Okay, so this expression is not callable, and yet it is. I know this expression is callable because I know that's how the exports work. So that one I'm just going to have to ignore. The same with all of these, in fact. Yeah, so this is this is a real shame. So WebAssembly.export value, I guess I was just looking there. Right, that's this thing which could be function. That's why I was being confused here. Right, okay. When I looked at this line and it says property buffer doesn't exist on type function, I was thinking, well, does it think that I'm calling a function here? Does it think I have a class? Because that's how it would be represented here. But no, I think what actually is happening is that it's dealing with the combined type of export value, and it's assuming that it is a function here. So, okay, I'm going to put the type guard in. Why not? So, exports memory buffer instance of, oh, sorry, memory instance of, what did you call it back here? You called it a WebAssembly.memory. New error, bad memory type. Right. Okay. There you go. So we got rid of one of these. There are other ways of dealing with this. I could actually say that I could assert that m.exports has a particular type, and just accept. I can do that and stick the TS ignore on it. That would be a valid way to deal with it. Yes, in fact, actually, I think I might do that because that might make my life a little bit easier. So I can't do that with m itself. No, I can't. Right. So const x. Oh, I probably can't call it exports. I'm going to call it m exports and exports, and I'm going to give it a specifically defined type. So what type here is memory. Memory is this. For the time being, I'm just gonna start with that. You can see it's got a red line because it doesn't really know that it exists. That's fine. I'm going to put my TS ignore on there because I don't really want to validate this. So I can now get rid of this line and then change this to an underscore. And there you go. Now we've got the nice life. we got the good stuff going on. So so I can now define a specific type for next steps. Right, and this is the same as the type of the one above. And oh, I'm saying the one above. This is the wrong place to be looking. It needs to be in core.js. Yeah, here it is. So it's this type here. So it'll take a little bit of work to get this into the correct expression, but it's not so much. It's a bit of copy and paste basically. So so it's function and it returns this. So I can now get rid of this line. And the arguments are position, which is of this type, and step type, which is of this type. There are ways to make this slightly easier with referring to a type of another thing which already has a type, but I'm not going to worry about that for this purpose. I'm just going to assume that works. So now I can change it into m underscore exports. And there you go. So now we've actually got something interesting going on because it actually takes a slightly different set of arguments. So in fact, this takes a number as a step type. So I just got to change that. Number. Okay. And expected 2 arguments, but got 3. No, what happened here? Oh, and the position, right, so the position, yeah, so this also takes 2 values here, so position X and position Y. This is all fine, and actually this, I happen to recall, returns, actually I think it returns a single number. Yeah, it returns a single number, so number. There you go. So now it's properly defined, and my life is a bit easier. If I look at core.wat, you can see what the arguments are. That's these things, but they're not very helpful to look at from here. So it'll still be easier for me to to infer it. So these I happen to recall all numbers. So that is nice and simple. So X, Y, and content. Yes, you know what? For this, I'm going to, because I'm getting a very long line here, I'm actually going to do a different way of doing this. The indentation got screwed up there, but that's just how life works. I will deal with the the indentation in just a second. So I'm going to instead say this is type object. No, actually, no. I think I don't say this. I think what I need to do is just have property, and I'm just going to give it a name at the end. So this should be property WebAssembly.memory, and it's called memory. Okay, that is how it should be. Okay, and then the second one, this is property. And that should be fine, I think. That's next steps. And then finally, just get rid of, in fact, it's not even there yet, but that's fine. I'll add it in a second. Okay, so this did not work. So I'm now going to have to work out how to do this. I think, let's try type object. Did that work? Does it now know anything about it? No, it doesn't. It's ended up producing a complete mess. Okay, I'm going to need to do this the long and horrible way. I'm just going to undo until I get back to where I started on this. Hopefully my undo history does go back far enough, but if it doesn't, I will deal with it. Right, okay, this is where I want to be. Good. Okay, so get from position. Right, that's here, and it returns a number, and these are all numbers. I'm actually going to turn on wrapping with this. I think it's this. Yeah, there you go. Okay, so this now should understand what get from position is. Thank you. And then we got is path. So this is obviously a number to number function. I happen to know that basically the only thing you can insert into these is numbers, and the only thing that you can get out of them is numbers. So I can just take it that all of the arguments are exactly that. Right, add node, which is again a new one. Okay, and init as well. So init doesn't apparently return a number. So I'm not particularly concerned about that. So I'm just going to say it takes a number. I can get away with doing that. It'll accept that situation. Right, an add node. Here we have that. So add node must be a new one. I'm going to put it at the beginning where it naturally belongs. Does it return anything? Yes, it does. Okay, so it returns a number. So overwrite is a number. Positions are numbers. You get this? It's very, very straightforward. Everything is a number for this. Okay, so m_exports.add node. Oh. Okay. See, this is interesting. So I don't think it has any way of understanding that it's undefined. So what I'm going to do is convert it to Boolean. And technically, at this point, yeah, I'm going to make it plus. Okay, that'll convert it back into a null. That's just a behavior that does make sense. So I'll add is leaf node, which I think is the last of these. Certainly looks like it is. Okay. Right, okay, so now I can relax very slightly because I've got rid of the bulk of the horrible red lines. I've still got some here, so I've got 4. But I will deal with those later as long as the thing still works. So it does not work. How have I broken this? This is life. This is how life is. Canvas context is null at line 788. I'm going to go there. 788. Thank you. What? Index.js line 788. That's where I am. Oh, it's because it's doing the wait, right, okay. So init.random. There we go. So yes, so that it actually is set in build context. So that gives me a thing to look for to fix, because there are several of these now. So this one will be fine. This one won't be fine until it's done the build context. So we do it here. This one also not fine. It's fine here. And this one, oh, actually, no, that one, interesting. Oh, yeah, no, that one is fine. That one is fine. It just goes here. Right, man, this one. Oh, no, this is step. So for this one, it does make sense. Right, let's reload. Thank you. And I'm going to run the tests. The tests will pass. Great. Okay, so fix some null values. That's all it's going to be. And I'll push. And that's it for now.